Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Roach Wiggle, December 22nd, 2022. I'm without hat today. I have misplaced it, and thus I am going into things bareheaded. So, yes, this has been a big week for what it was intended to be for. The husbandry guide is pretty much done. Let me say hello to some people here. We've got Tennyson, Jojo Macro Jr., Jose, and Satchel. Hello, everybody. So the guide is pretty much done. That includes the pictures that I wanted to add. There's still some pictures that I wanted to add that there isn't quite a good space in the guide for. Maybe I'll wake up in the middle of the night and decide that I'll just throw them all on a page at the end and just label it as like miscellaneous pictures. But other than that, I just have a little section to add before the conclusion, which will be similar to my random ramblings that I do frequently in the live stream about stuff. And other than that, it's done. And I'm happy with the amount of stuff. It's going to be, if I don't add that extra page that I was just talking about with some pictures, it's going to end up being 21 pages versus 14 pages, which is the length of the last one. So quite a big bump. Some sections remain relatively unchanged. I have read through the whole thing and gone in and put in information and changed things where necessary. But there were a couple of sections that were watertight, and I just left them because maybe I added a little something here, there, or changed a word or fixed. There were a couple of spelling or grammar things scattered here and there. But otherwise, yeah, it's looking pretty much like how I want it to be. Again, would like some more pictures of some stuff, but I don't want to mess with the page formatting too much. Things are kind of well positioned and spaced with respect to the flow of stuff so that, you don't miss a part of a section because it runs over in a weird place onto the next page necessarily. So yeah, it's pretty much done. Everybody who donated will be getting early access to the guide, that being probably late tonight or tomorrow. Hello, Duchess and Chain. Good to see you both. Yeah, so it'll get distributed to donators first. I have a list of everybody who donated. They will get the copy. Maybe somebody will read it over, and that's something I need to fix. That's maybe somebody will be like, I was really, this is really helpful, but there's this one thing that I really struggle with that I really want to know more about, and I think it would make a good guide section. Maybe I'll be like, yeah, you know what, I think I'll add that. But yeah, anybody picks up any typos or parts that might be a little confusing, they can give their 2 cents on that. There's been a lot of stuff added to the cockroach health section, the table of things that affect cockroaches. I have added some. Oh, I forgot to add bug herpes. Oh, man, I got to do that now. That's going to mess with some of my formatting, but I wanted to add it. Really wanted to add that. So, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, guys. I may not be as attentive to the chat since I'm gonna be adding the section as we speak. Yeah, I'm gonna add this. What am I gonna call this? Where's it gonna be? Can I put it here? Do I have space on this page? Oh, that would be so nice if I have space right here. I could sneak in another section on the table and just, yeah, that would be so good if I can sneak it in right here. Yeah, again, apologies for me going quiet for a minute here, but again, I really wanted to add this and I just remembered it. So yeah, you get to instead of getting a chair stream, you guys get a quiet, intense looking Kyle stream. Oh, I gotta switch the two of these. Maybe the first document that sort of synthesizes a bunch of information about cockroach illnesses. Maybe other than the big one by Roth, but this has diagnosis and practical applications too. So let's see. Again, apologize for not being so talkative, but now it's in my head. This is, okay. I think that. Okay, formatting's still good, even with me adding that. Okay, that formatting's still good. Still good. Still good. Just scrolling down to make sure that adding that section didn't mess anything up further down, but I do need to switch the two of these really quick. Also, I forgot to mention, I've been sterilizing pine cones all day, just as something in between all the other stuff that I've been doing. And oh, why is that adding weird formatting like that? Can I do plain text? Nope. Don't like this. Don't like this formatting stuff that it's pulling right now. All right, good. So anyways, what I was saying, I've been sterilizing pine cones all day, and so my hands are covered in pine cone resin, and it sucks, and I can't really get it off of my hands. Okay, now it's in alphabetical order. Wait a minute, I could have just, why did I screw with the formatting? I could have just alphabetized it. Guys, I'm very tired. It's been a long week, and I have so much to do in the bug room, and I'll bring that up in a minute. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. All right. Cockroach and tenny herpes has been added to the cockroach care guide. Good. All right. Let's see what the chat's saying about this. Oh, not too much. Ben, I missed the concept. What is the guide of which you speak? You focus. I'm redoing my cockroach care guide, which I have not touched since 2016, and now due to generous donations from a myriad of lovely people, I've been able to justify taking the time off of shipping and doing other stuff to focus on doing the guide, and it's turned out wonderful. And so these pictures could use a little bit more. They could use a little more something, but let me tell you, it's very difficult to get a picture of cockroaches and isopods in the same shot when you're not staging it, as in putting out food, or basically putting out food for them both to come to at the same time. So I got some pictures of some commingling cockroaches and isopod colonies that I have, but unfortunately the composition of the pictures is not ideal. And I would love to try doing this over and over again to try and get the absolute perfect shots, but I figured that it would be good enough to at least just get the pictures in here of some things so that people can at least see them. The one I peer pressure you into making in the first place. Yeah, Ben, I think I vaguely remember you telling me that I need to make a care guide. So now you can reread it and see all the updated information. Jojo Macro, I once put peanut butter on my hands to remove pine tar. It worked and smelled great. Huh. I wonder if that would work. It's gross because they've got all this kind of Victor's hair is now part of the commingling of stuff that's on my hands. It's gross. Hello, Jay Butera. Good to see you. I don't think I've seen you in here before. Nice to have you. Paraplaneta Missionary, Paraplaneta Cameo, go. There is a Paraplaneta Cameo in the guide. There's two, actually. There's one in the cohabitating roaches and isopods section, and there's always been one in the cockroach family tree at the beginning of the guide, which has been updated to include a picture of. Oh, I should probably center this a little bit better. Which has been updated to include a picture of sugar snap peas. Move that too far. One of these pictures needs to be moved over just a little bit. Crap. But yes, there's a Paraplaneta brunea in the cockroach family tree. I think anybody who casually looks at it would probably think it's an Americana, but I went with brunea there because I felt like it. So yes, the cockroach family tree at the beginning of the guide has been updated to include a picture of Nocticola species Malaysia, and thus after all this time, that section is pretty much completed. Maybe one day I will go through and do a more fleshed out version of this. There's a surprising number of of splits and schisms the lower you go into cockroach taxonomy, and we don't have pictures for a lot of those. So we don't have pictures for the majority of them. So this, I feel, is good enough as an introduction so that people get a good idea of the relationships between some of the major groupings with visuals to kind of show some of the morphology, although it's kind of all over the place. You look at Nocticola, they look more like a little mantid or more like an ectobia than they do like the sand roaches. So oh boy, lots of things. Every time I put down the guide, it seems like more stuff pops up. This is good. Tennyson asks, have you ever cohabbed roaches with inverts other than isopods successfully? I've kept them with web spinners. I've kept them with darkling beetles, some millipedes. You need some pretty tenacious millipedes, or you need to make sure that the roaches you have aren't going to be disturbing the millipedes constantly. You can keep them with crickets too. I have, there's a picture in the guide of, I'm going to scroll down to it so I can describe this. I'm looking at it. I have a colony of my Gronphodorina grandadiri, the tiger hissers, has a colony of Porcellio magnificus that lives in with it. But there's also, from when I wasn't sterilizing leaves and stuff properly around 2019, there's also a colony of Neonemobius in there as well. And they've been there with no extra help from me for like 2-3 years now. One day I will isolate some to raise separately, but it's just such a low priority, and they're just always in there, so I never get around to doing it. So you can keep different crickets with roaches too. So there's lots of possibilities. Braden says, I've been using walnut shells from my yard instead of pine cones. From my yard instead of pine cones. They seem to make good hiding spots for smaller roaches. Juglanone can do some weird things, but I have seen parcoblata on like shagbark hickories in the wild, and like including like in the little piles of shells that the squirrels make at the bottom of them. So aged wood materials are pretty good. Just, you got to watch out with fresh stuff. If it's very aromatic, just kind of use caution. Paraplaneta Missionary says, you need a Paraplaneta roach to co-host the stream. There's actually one in this room. I pulled a special mail that Alan gave me for this breeding project. We're going to see if it proves out when I have it mate with its children. But I put it up here because I really wanted to make sure it survived until its children were mature so that I could cross it to them and see if the trait's actually genetic in the first place. And so it is in one of these enclosures. I think it's one of these ones lower down over here. Let's see. Aquarimax says, regarding additional food for adult fruit flies, I bought the mango coconut jellies you're going. Would you just dump in a small portion of the jelly or in a small cup within the culture? Let's take a look at that right now with regards to feeding fruit flies. So here's a hide-eye colony. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Everybody wants to look at fruit flies today, apparently. Here's a hide-eye colony. This is the date that I started the colony, December 1st. I just put the jelly in here. I keep it facing upwards because if you put it on the side, or like if it's tilted where stuff can drip out, some of the liquid will drip out, and I think it increases the concentration of the sugar. And roaches and stuff are fine with that, but it also dries the material out faster, and so I don't like that. So I try to orient it, as vertically as possible in the culture, and the flies really like it. Again, I've been getting really good longevity out of my fruit fly cultures this way. Let's see, this one's 21 days old, and it's producing. I think it started producing a couple of days ago. So, but yes, I orient them vertically. You can see like the stuff at the bottom. How are the adults going to eat that? Like it's swarming with larvae. It's been degraded. It's probably full of waste from the larvae and stuff. And so this gives them, something nice to feed on. And I noticed over time they eventually start laying eggs in the cup, in the jelly cup, and that's fine too. Like this colony is not going to last forever. It's just about making it last as long as possible. and giving the flies nutrition so that they're better for whatever you're feeding them too. And I haven't done that with melanogaster unless I really feel like it. There's just such a quick turnover on melanogaster cultures that I don't necessarily find it helpful. I think I've done it a couple of times with them, but for the most part, I use it for Hydei and Bazatii. So yeah, it's something with the jellies to be considered is they're not expensive, but it's more expensive than apples and other fruits and stuff like that. For me, since I've gone all in with them, I don't. It's just another expense, and it makes up for it in how well stuff performs when given the jellies. But some problems I've run into is one, like the cost. It is something that needs to be considered, and the Asian grocery stores I get them from don't seem to stock them regularly. It's one of those inventory things where they probably get it in once every year, maybe like a new shipment of it, because it just doesn't move and it stores forever. And so I've bought a couple places out of them, and now I'm kind of like, okay, what am I going to do now? If I run out again. JBTRS, thoughts on DL methionine? Is it safe for invertebrates? Let me look that up. I have no idea. I've never used it as a supplement or anything like that. Maybe the best way to figure that out is do a little mini experiment where you have like 2 colonies of something easy, like a lobster roaches or something, and feed one the standard diet as a control group, and then feed the other one the same diet with the methionine mixed in, and see how the cultures fare over time by some metric. Hello, Chris. Good to see you. Ben says, any updates on the illegal alien roaches? Oh, the Nyctibora. I think so. You got one so far. Are you able to show them in the stream? Let me see. They're usually on the side of the enclosure, so maybe if I just bring the enclosure over, we can see them. I've gotten at least one confirmed ooth. Unfortunately, I think that the female, or at least one of the females, has run out of sperm, because I did find a smaller ooth that was kind of haphazardly laid, and it had molded over, and it was very soon after laying, which means it's probably infertile. So I think that it's going to be up to the ooths that I sent TJ to get another generation going, or you're going to have to go out and find a male when conditions allow, if these females are still alive. Honestly, they seem like they're going to be pretty long-lived roaches. This one is ducked down into the corner here. Let me see if I can find the other one. They seem like they're going to be pretty. Oh, ooh. All right. This is a Nyctibora ooth right here. It shows how much I actually tend to them. I mean, they get watered like every day to every couple of days, but I'm just gonna keep zooming this in. The hand trick. So this thing focuses. Hand trick not working so much. Let's see, put this there, put that there. This is a Nyctibora ooth here. This one's smaller than the other ones that were laid, and smaller than the other one that was laid in here. But yeah, so, and if I can get one of the females out, I can look at them. I mean, I do have a good video of these on YouTube too, of these Nyctibora. But if we do get them breeding, these will be. Are you okay? Yeah, she's fine. These will be really, really nifty. A very long-lived ectobiid. This is not a bladed cockroach. This is an ectobiid. It's related to German roaches and Hemithyrsospora and all those other little things. But it looks very bladed-y. Probably the largest ectobiid in culture other than Megaloblad, if anybody's actually gotten those going overseas. I'm going to just have my hand here in case she falls. So yeah, I really think, and you can see there are some they used to be called hypoaspis. I don't know what they're called now. Predatory mites on my hand. You can see them swarming my callus area. But anyways, so this is hopefully we can get a hatch, and it won't be up to Ben to go and find some more because they don't seem to be that common. But those Nyctibora are not reported from the United States, and Ben found them in Arizona. It seemed logical for like to be the extreme northern end of their range, just unreported because roaches. But yeah, we'll see. All we can do is wait, because members of that subfamily, Nyctiborinae, yeah. Is it a tribe? Nyctiborinae. Nyctiborinae. Yeah, members of that subfamily, their ooths can take a long time to hatch. I think TJ was saying over 6 months. So we don't know why, but that's just how they are. So we'll see. Jojo Macro says, these jellies have everything so much more manageable for me. Incredible tip. Yes, they're great for especially little ectobiids. I don't like using them for larger colonies of things because they just eat so much. You know, at some point when a colony reaches a certain size, you can switch to apple reliably because something's always eating it. I do make note of that in the guide too. You know, you have a large colony, it's more feasible to use apples and stuff. The roaches like it just as much because there's always some individual nibbling on it, keeping it sort of chewed up, and it's likely that the roaches are salivating on it and sort of breaking it down before it can ferment in an unfavorable way. Jojo says, my grocery store had a secret hidden menu for restaurants. Had to use my business for it, but got the good jellies for days. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go out and buy some more soon. Actually, I was just looking at like, oh my gosh, like I've gone through maybe like 15 of those things in the last like 2 months. But it's just how it's got to be. It's just so handy, and you can snack on them occasionally too. They're people food. Paraplania Mystery says, I was experimenting with the Drosophila virilis culture, but I left them in the fridge too long and ruined the culture. It happens. I mean, I wouldn't mind another Drosophila to culture if we can get them wingless. I tried the spotted wings a couple years ago, and I couldn't get them to go. I think that there's something with that. I don't know what, though. Shane asked, do the males have wings? The two species that those Nyctibora could be do not have wings. We have to see the adult males because that's the only ones that the descriptions for the species are based on the males, and the females are supposedly identical, so we need to see the adult males. Tennyson asked, do grain mites cause issues for isopods and roaches, or are they just annoying? They can cause some very serious issues. If you handle an infestation quickly, by removing the food, let me go right to the care guide and see what I suggest here. If you remove the food quickly and dry things out, change part of the substrate, feed very sparingly, or introduce predatory mites, you can sort of nip the problem in the bud. If they go on for too long unnoticed, they will enter a life stage called the hypopus, where they will cement themselves onto cockroaches and other invertebrates. Is a dispersal mechanism, and this can impede them from molting. It can impede roaches and stuff from breathing. It can impede them from chewing and whatnot. So it's very important to get grain mite problems under control as quickly as possible. These predatory mites that pop up in some of my enclosures have been very effective for that. I'm going to work on culturing them separately and making them available because they do fix the problem. They don't seem to bother roaches and other things like that. So they are kind of a godsend. They do attack some springtails, but then sometimes they don't. I don't know much more about them than that. But it's better to get rid of your grain mites or your detrimental mite problem than it is to have springtails, in my opinion, if you have to decide between the two of them. Gavin Blake. Hello, Gavin. I found mites the other day and just cleaned the entire enclosure. It was a dead dubia in my white spots they wanted. Yeah, sometimes at large numbers, and if the humidity is just right, they'll go for just about anything, but not always. Ben says about the Nyctabora, excellent. She's looking good. That was a smaller but healthy-looking new ooth, making 2 viable-looking ones and 1 infertile one that molded right away. They could have made more ooths than the ones that I know about. Again, I'm waiting 6 months for babies to pop up, and I'm just making sure that they're well fed and they have a good variety of diet stuff and that they're comfortable. And that's basically all that I'm going to do with that. I'm not going to try and micromanage them at all. It's just not feasible. They take 6 months. They take 6 months. Ben says once it warms up again, I'll start going down there every now and then, check again. But those two, they're right next to each other, and I didn't see any more in the area, so it's a big if, I think. Yeah, you may get lucky. Might be the time of year. Might be the humidity or moisture that brings them out of cracks or wood or something like that. Paraplane Missionary says Drosophila virilis is huge, as evidenced by the virile in the Latin name. Virilis is huge. It's worth the effort to try and get them into the pet hobby. I agree. Tennyson, I answered the question about the springtails earlier. It seems like sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Satchel says, my spider beetles have become overrun with grain mites. Not sure what to do about it since the culture is kept on perfect grain mite food. Dry them out completely, since the spider beetles should be able to take very low humidity, but not the grain mites. You could also introduce the predatory mites. Gavi Wavy, welcome. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen you before. Says, how are predatory mites with tarantulas? I have no idea, but considering they don't bother millipedes or roaches or isopods, they're probably fine. Jojo Macro says, my Hoffman's Eggy star culture has a gnat issue, but some predatory mite appeared randomly the other day. Should I just leave it all alone? Yeah, I mean, once you see predatory mites, it's kind of like with the grain mites. It's like you've already passed the threshold of prevention. In a lot of cases, you're just going to be responding to things. J. Butera attempted to breed Eublabrus distanti species ivory heads with Eublabrus posticus for 6+ months, 0 offspring. What happened? Those 2 species, and species ivory is actually distanti. They went on a whole thing about that a couple of months ago. But Eublabrus distanti and Eublabrus posticus actually occur within the exact same cave systems, from what I've read, and they are separated by their moisture preferences. You find distanti in the drier parts of the caves and posticus in the wetter parts of the caves. And so there's quite a bit of separation between the two of them for probably millions of years. So yeah, they don't seem to like each other either. They don't like to congregate with each other. They'll bully each other. So yeah. Gabby Wabby. Oh, okay. You have changed your name to Gabby Wabby. Okay, Gavin. Paraplane Missionary says food issue plus temps most likely. They also do best if they can burrow. I'm not sure what that's in reference to from Paraplane Missionary. Satchel says the culture is already dry. Not sure how to dry it out anymore. You could salvage a couple of adults and if the container is dry, does it have a lid on it? Can you take the lid off and just let it sit exposed to air? The spider beetles, Mesium, can't fly or climb, so they won't get out if you do that. But that will that should deal with the problem as long as your house is also dry right now. You could introduce predatory mites, which you could get from yours truly, or maybe Alan has some bumming around his containers. Tennyson says, how can you tell the difference between grain and soil mites? Also, are soil mites harmful? Grain mites are whitish, yellowish. They tend to form like a powder on stuff that they're eating, like on dog food or dead bugs or fish flakes or whatever. They form like a weird mealy powder. They have it's almost like a pine scent. It's a very sickeningly sweet smell. Soil mites are not necessarily harmful. You'll have orobatids and other things in enclosures and not really be able to do anything about it. Sometimes they have a hypopus that can damage different insects. It's not very common, though. What about orange mites? Again, some of these you do have to put under a microscope. And I go into a couple of these in the care guide. The ones that I discuss are the ones I've encountered the most in a problematic way, which are grain mites, the orobatid hypopus stage of the orobatid mites, which are like reddish or dark reddish or almost blackish, purplish. And the only exception to the not being a problem, or the only exception to the being a problem, the hissing cockroach mites, the Androlelap schaeferi. So those are all the ones that I bring up in the guide. In general, if they're not causing problems, they're not a problem. But grain mites definitely, they're soiling the food. The roaches and stuff won't eat the food if it's infested with grain mites, etc. A, don't know who A is, but welcome. Says mites took over my Protonura springtail colony. They followed a fungus gnat invasion and wiped the gnats out. I'm fearing for the springtail strike. Just scarred the whole thing. Again, most of the time, and if the Protonura you're talking about are the orange ones, those have been identified as I don't have this committed to memory yet. Where is it? I have it written down here. I think I just went through this last week too, or the week before when I was trying to figure out what it was. Euchionura aphereroides is what the oranges are. But, I have mites in my colony, and they don't seem to care. And I don't seem to care either. I'll show that off, I guess. Show bugs. So this is my Euchionura aphereroides culture. There's probably a couple thousand in here of mixed life stages. These are the oranges. Let's see how I can do this. There we go. It's difficult because I want to look and make sure that it's focused, but I can't shove my face there. So, oh yeah, that's great. That's some nice eyeball springtail porn right there. So these are the Euchionura aphereroides. And there's mites in here, there's mold, there's all kinds of stuff that people would normally panic about. But look, you can see the density. Oh, yeah, there we go. You can see the density of the springtails in here. They don't care about any soil mites. They don't care about the mold. They're just having a good old time in there. Oh, man, that looks like an Entomobria unostrigata that snuck in there. Hopefully it's just one of those little CF Lepidostris species. But yeah, look at that. It is springtail heaven. They're having a good time. Now the reds are not doing this for me. They're doing well, but they're not doing this for me. So there's maybe only a couple hundred in my red culture. So I think that the person who identified these as Euchionura aphereroides is working on identifying the reds too. So it seems likely, just based on how they propagate, that the reds may not be the same species. Could be wrong, though. I am not a springtail expert, especially with these guys. I also have a Bilobella brawnery colony, but they're gnat and mite free for some reason. Gnats only like that one colony. I'm going to look at what these Bilobella brawner. Oh, those are pretty cool. Oh, is that what the reds have been identified as? As the Bilobella brawnery? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, basically, if things work out for multiple generations with your cultivation methods, even if you see something problematic, it's usually not a huge deal. was actually thinking, I saw a couple of weird individuals in here, like a yellower one and a redder one, and I'm wondering if they're just, in different life stages, or if they just molted or something physiological. But I might actually try pulling some aberrants and seeing if there is something that can be bred for there. I may give that a go, because that'd be pretty cool. It'd be nice to have a rainbow of springtails. Yeah, so these ones are orange, and these are Yuki and Nura, and then the reds are, I don't know what they are, whenever they'll be identified, hopefully soon. So, but yeah, I like these. This is a great acquisition. I've been seeing these pop up a couple times, and I think Carlos Michelson sent me a group. Somebody sent me a small group, and I went over the top and put them in a big enclosure with a bunch of active mycelium, and they failed to take. And I was just like, oh man, everybody said these are so easy. And then I was like, all right, let's just scale it back and let's just throw them in a 16-ounce cup with like moldy food and see what happens. And that was the approach to go with. Apparently, sometimes it's just like that. I've finally gotten a tentative culture of the tiny blues going again. We're going to see how those do over time. I've got them up here and on a mycelium substrate, and they seem to be doing pretty okay. So maybe I will finally, after all these years, have those available on the site again. They pop up in large numbers in a lot of roach cultures that I have, especially Panchlora, but not reliably enough for me to make them for sale as often as I did before. So yeah, Jay Butera, the reason they're not breeding together is because they can't, and they probably hate each other, as much as two species of cockroaches can actually, perhaps. Yeah. So let's see, anything else to talk about. So we got since I don't want to talk about the stuff I have to do like I usually talk about, because if I think about it for too long, I'll have a panic attack with all the stuff that I have to get done in the bug room, since I've been working on the care guide and doing other stuff that needs to be, and getting ready for the polar cyclone vortex that's supposed to hit us later tonight. That's going to drop our temperatures down into the single digits. So that's going to be fun, especially if my power goes out. Probably won't, but it could. Yeah, it's going to be really cold for a couple of days here. In fact, so much so that I will probably postpone shipping orders next week to the following week, because a low of 11 degrees Fahrenheit and a high of 24 degrees Fahrenheit on Tuesday does not sound appealing at all. It's supposed to go up into the 50s, apparently. I wonder if we're in an El Nino. I haven't really looked into that lately. I think we were a couple of years ago. 2018, I think, was an El Nino year, so that might explain some of the weird stuff going on. So West Side Story, but it's you, Blabberous. I like that. So anyway, so let's do a sneak peek. Let's go into the cockroach health section of the care guide, and I'll just go down the conditions and I'll sort of read off what's here. This is a sneak peek to everybody in the live stream. I'll just read off some of the conditions here. Maybe it'll help somebody who's having a problem before the guide gets fully published. So we'll just go through that, because it's something that isn't often talked about. Oh, that's going to annoy me. I need to... There we go. Oh, I hope that what I just didn't screw up all the formatting. There's a little thing out of place here. Okay. That's the thing with tables, is you just adjust one thing and it just all of a sudden everything else gets shifted, and it's all screws everything up. Yeah, I'm not gonna mess with that. We're gonna cop out and there we go. I just decreased the font of that one the one header thing, and that that fixed the problem. So actually, maybe I could do that for the whole thing. Change all these headers to 12 font. We can just keep that one so that the formatting stays good. Yeah, Control Z. That's why I was slamming. Chain says, when you have this blue springtails available, I want to see if they can withstand flashes of UVC. I tried it out on many planaria and other springtails. Absolutely nothing has survived yet. Why are you bombarding things with UV radiation, Chain? Out of curiosity. Oh man. Let's see. All right, but anyways, while you answer that, while we have some generation of discussion, someone has to do it. Yeah, I guess I thought about doing it with bombarding roaches with stuff like German cockroaches, like females that have ooths on them, freshly produced ooths, like bombarding the roach with different types of chemicals or radiation to see if I can fish for something mutagenic. But that's a lot of work. I don't have time to do mad scientist stuff. Not right now, at least. Eventually, I will. I mean, my mad scientist stuff is kind of like throwing roaches and ice pods together and seeing what works and what doesn't. So, anyways, conditions on the cockroach health section table. We have aborted ooths. Obviously, live-bearing species should not be dropping their ooths in the enclosure. I should probably, in my diagnoses here, I'm noticing there's a lot of things that are no, it's not too bad. I list the severity of things from like harmless to severe. I'm noticing that there's quite a few things that I've listed as like moderate to severe, mild to moderate, etc. Mild to severe. I think it's fine. So, aborted was mild to severe, caused by stress, poor physical condition, unknown reasons. Check your husbandry as a treatment. Cockroach antenna herpes, or we can just call it cockroach herpes, is a genus of fungus that infects the antennae of at least ectobiid roaches. I've seen it on Parkablad a couple of times, and it is believed to be spread sexually. So this fungus only expresses on the antennae, I think maybe rarely on the legs of cockroaches, particularly Parkablada, and is somehow spread sexually between cockroaches, primarily or exclusively. So the genus Herpomyces, pretty good name. So it's cockroach herpes, even though it's not a virus. It's just it's got Herpomyces in the Latin name. So it presents as a fuzzy material on the antennae of ectobiid roaches, especially Parkablada, and the antennae will often be shortened in addition to having the fuzzy material. Believe this is because the whatever hemolymph or supply is usually provided to the ends of the antennae is cut off by the fungus, and so they will the ends of them will atrophy and die and fall off or something like that. Paraplane missionary says, I'm not a fan of making hardware, so as long as you don't sell and destroy once you're done, then there's no issue. Keep lines pure is very. Yes, thank you for reiterating that, Paraplane missionary. I have been trying to hybridize Eudistanti and ECF biolii for a couple of years now without success, and they're currently both technically Eublaberus distanti, but they were originally classified as two different species. So it's very likely that they will be and should be resurrected as two separate taxa. So that would be our 6 spots in our ivory roaches. Currently both distanti, but should be split back into their respective species of distanti and biolii. So let's see. Moving down the list on the table, we have colony death spiral, CDS, which is what I've talked about a couple times in the last month on here. Colony death spiral. No or minimal reproduction, adult roaches living for varying amounts of time, inexplicable deaths, symptoms manifesting during an observation period of a few weeks to months after receiving roaches or after correcting husbandry in your own colony, severity, moderate to severe, causes, lingering effects of previous poor husbandry and colony stress, treatment, none, but maybe reverse in a generation or two if good husbandry is maintained. So this is there's a publication, and I referenced it in the guide, called, and this was provided by Alex Baranowski. I don't know, Alex, if you're here right now, but if you are, thank you for providing this. There's a publication from 2009 called Separate and Combined Effects of Nutrition During Juvenile and Sexual Development on Female Life History Trajectories, the Thrifty Phenotype in a Cockroach. And basically, depending on what nutrients cockroach nymphs receive and their overall health and vigor, it is possible that even if you improve conditions of larger nymphs or of adults, that you cannot rescue cockroaches from from I guess chronic reproductive issues, not reproducing, etc. So this is important. And basically, if your colony is doing well, keep it doing well. And if you have a colony that's done poorly or that you haven't treated well and that the numbers and health has declined, it's possible that you may not be able to rescue that colony from spiraling into dying out. It could be over a long period of time, too. It could be years, and you may not see reproduction. But basically, the way to correct that is just you gotta cross your fingers. You gotta keep doing things right and hope for the best. Densonucleosis virus, excessively swollen abdomen with organ prolapse. Roaches will look pretty much like a cigar when they have this condition, and it is always fatal, very severe, caused by densonucleosis virus. Don't know what the vector is, don't know where the virus comes from, etc. But fortunately, it does not seem to be contagious. I think I've mostly seen it in enclosures where there was too much moisture, or the humidity was too high, or there was not enough ventilation. I haven't seen it in quite a while, but it is always lethal. I think I've seen it in hissing cockroach species. I've seen it in Simondoa. Can't really think of anything else that I've seen. This might even be oxyhalonii exclusive, at least in cockroaches. But yeah, that's something that can happen. Hello, Allie. Good to see you. We're just moving down the list of conditions on my cockroach health table in the new updated husbandry guide before its official release. Disecdysis, or failed molts. I'm going to put that. Failed molts. Molting individuals trapped or stuck partially in shed exoskeletons. Moderate to severe causes of dehydration, malnutrition. Check your husbandry to ensure proper conditions, etc. Entomophagus fungus infection. There is a species that I should put in here that it usually is. What is that? Trichoderma. I'm going to write that down here. A little more information on the guide for anybody who wants to do some deeper digging when it is released. So you will find recently dead roaches with white or green fungus covering their body. It's mild to severe. It's due to fungal spore presence and or stress. Lethal to some roach species. You need to increase the ventilation and or decrease humidity and or increase temperature. So this can be more common in wild caught stuff. I've seen it in Panchlora. I've seen it in Parcablata. I've seen it in Paraplaneta. I've seen it in Asiablata. I've seen it in Paratemnopteryx. I've seen it in Eurycotis, or at least I think that's what I saw in Eurycotis. Yeah, so it seems to affect mostly ectobiids and blatids. And, just check your husbandry. Sometimes you have a really bad outbreak of it, but keeping things drier and warmer seems to discourage it. Next one on the list is fatal or non-fatal cannibalism. Decreasing population size is a symptom. Freshly molted individuals with missing body parts, tattered wingtips, mild to severe due to dehydration, malnutrition, starvation. Increase your food variety and or quantity. Call split the colony. Mr. Provide water source or increase frequency of feeding and watering. Grain mites, Acarus species, as the hypopus stage. High-density whitish mites clinging to the body segments on upper legs and on face, moderate to severe, due to overfeeding or wet substrate. Treatment is isolating unaffected individuals, manually remove mites using your fingernails or stiff brushes, change the substrate, feed sparingly until no mites are detected, or introduce predatory mites, or do all of them. Hissing cockroach mite, Androlilaps schaeferi. Fast-moving, dark red/brownish mites crawling across the body surface and between the leg joints of hissing cockroaches. Harmless, no particular causes. It's a commensal organism. Don't worry about it. Their numbers can go up and down depending on enclosure conditions. Hyperpigmentation disorder. Increased contrast between normally dark pigment areas and light/translucent areas. It's mild due to lower temperatures or high humidity. So increase the temperature or decrease the humidity. This next one's pretty neat. This is a new one to the guide. I can't remember how many of these other ones are new to the guide. Jigsaw disorder. The abdomen or thoracic segments uneven or mismatched, giving a jigsaw puzzle appearance. It's harmless to mild, and this is due to damage to the embryo during incubation or unknown causes. We know this is not a genetic condition because Pycnoscelis surinamensis have been found with it. So it's due to something that happens to the embryo, damage or something not growing properly. There's no treatment for it. And usually roaches with this condition can reproduce and live just fine. They don't seem to be bothered by it at all. Sometimes you'll see some really extreme examples where like they'll be like the whole abdomen will look like it's shifted or uneven from the segments being mismatched and truncated. And actually, this is really something I should get a picture of. I think Oren may have put a picture of it on the Roach forum at some point. But if I find another individual like that, I know I just thought of it because I saw a hisser with it a couple of maybe like a week ago. But if I see it again, I'll get a picture and put it in the guide. Let's see. Moving on from that. Male bullying. Adult males with shortened antennae, rarely missing legs or leg pieces. It's harmless to moderate. It's just a result of natural antagonistic behavior between adult male roaches. I see it mostly in Oxyhaloene, so hissers, Nauphita, Hentrietodenia, Simondoa. Not really in Rhyperobia or it's another oxy. Not or maybe an Oxyhaloa. I've seen it maybe. I can't really can't recall if I have or haven't. And I've seen it in blabberine roaches, so some blabberus will do it. Archimandrita will do that. And cures or treatments, none, or you can call or split the colony, or you can increase the enclosure size. A couple of options. Old age, missing limbs, tattered wings, discolored patches on body, lethargy, broken antennae, mild. It's just due to the roach living a long time, perhaps longer than its biological systems were ever intended to live for. And if you really would like to help a roach live as long as possible, you'll just have to do some personalized care for it, making sure it's eating, giving it more liquid foods that it can eat easier if you so desire. Myiasis. Or fly strike, I guess it's called in mammals. Fly larvae colonizing or actively growing on living roaches, particularly the abdomen tip, moderate to severe due to wet conditions or low ventilation or overcrowding. Treatment is decrease the humidity or increase ventilation, call or split the colony. And if you want to save infected individuals, you need to manually remove the fly larvae from infected individuals. and euthanize the individual if it's severe. I've only seen this a handful of times in some things like blabberus and hissers, where it kept way too moist, and they will get fly larvae, either fruit or forward fly larvae, on the end of their abdomen. And if the larvae have breached the body cavity, it's pretty much fatal. It's a sign that there's decay going on within the roach, and so you need to euthanize. Organ prolapse. Organs extruding from the abdomen tip, appearing balloon or worm-like. This is very severe. It's due to physical trauma, viral infection like densonucleosis virus, or just unknown causes. And it's lethal in almost all cases. You need to euthanize the cockroach. So if you see a adult male cockroach with its phalomere sticking out and it can't retract it, it can usually, they can live. They just can't reproduce because they need that for reproduction, and they have the risk of all kinds of infections from having that part exposed constantly. And same for females that have a female blabberid roaches that have a prolapse of the brood sac. That usually is fatal if it does not retract within the body shortly. So it's unfortunate. A lot of these things are it's unfortunate. A lot of them are fatal or severe by the time you notice them, but you can at least fix things on a colony level most of the time. Orobatid mites from the, what is it, class, or let me see, I don't know mite taxonomy very well. An order of mites. So the order Orobatida. As a hypopus, as defined, as it words, Kyle. The hypopus stage of the Orobatid mite, like the hypopus stage of the grain mite. These are shiny reddish mites clinging to and feeding on limbs, abdomen vent, or mouth of cockroaches, infesting the substrate. Mild to moderate. It's unknown what causes them to enter this life stage, or to take this life route, possibly due to wet substrate or certain foods that have been fed. To have a chance at fixing this, you need to remove and keep the roaches dry for several days, change the substrate, and feed sparingly until no mites are detected. I feel like I've seen these. Hi, Beetle Guy. I just noticed you, and thank you for welcoming him, Allie, as I'm reading through this. I've noticed these Orobatid hypopus, or even just more of them of this particular type, tend to pop up after I feed squashes, especially pumpkin. I don't know why. It might have something to do with like the nutrient profile of those foods. Next, pesticide, wood-induced or bacteria-induced poisoning. Symptoms are lethargy, unusual and uncoordinated twitching movements, and inability to flip over when on back. This is moderate to severe, at least as it applies to the colony. Sometimes you just have a couple of individuals that end up like this. Sometimes it'll be much more larger scale than it is obviously very severe due to contaminated food or substrate. Lethal to affected individuals. Wash and carefully select your produce. Ensure the substrate does not contain fresh softwoods. There's a lot of things that can cause this sort of poisoning in cockroaches. Obviously, you'll want to euthanize any roaches that are acting irregularly. And this is a good one here. Serratia bacterial infection, abnormally bright red or orange coloration, decreased reproduction, mismolting, mild to severe. Causes are dehydration, overcrowding, malnutrition, previous infection in colony or stock. Check husbandry to ensure proper conditions. Cull infected individuals if desired. There are some species that I keep that seem to be very prone to Serratia infections, primarily a Bursatria species. You see it in dubias sometimes, not too often, but you do see it a lot in factory farm dubias because they're not being cared for the way they really want to be. So you'll see people find those weird orange dubias, and they'll think that they found a color morph or something, and it's just a Serratia infected individual. It should be noted that the amber and still unnamed Roach crossing gold lines do not, they may resemble the Serratia infected individuals, but they never get quite the same screaming orange color that those do. Then we have subcutaneous Serratia bacterial infection, and this is on recently dead individuals or living individuals with non-functioning reddish or purplish limbs and other body parts, mild to moderate due to wet conditions or low ventilation. It seems to be a different strain of Serratia from the cuticle infection, and you need to decrease the humidity or increase ventilation. I've only seen this in smaller roaches like Panchlora and Nauphita, where there was obviously way too high of humidity involved. And it will infect limbs and whatnot. And when it infects limbs, if you fix the humidity very quickly, those roaches can be fine. They'll just lose the limbs that were affected. If left for too long, it will kill some roaches, not necessarily all of them. It's not something that I go around and worry about. And if I saw it in one of my colonies, I would just be like, oh, I need to make them less human. Terminal dehydration, dead individuals on the substrate surface with the front of the body lunged forward, legs sticking out behind, the same posture but laying on their backs. Moderate to severe. We're going to put dead, dry individuals on the substrate surface. Moderate to severe, obviously it's due to dehydration, and check your husbandry to ensure proper conditions to make sure you're not dehydrating your roaches to death. Wing, limb, and body deformities, mismolts. I put mismolts in another section. Curled, tattered. I guess mismolts still apply here, even though I had the section specifically on stuck molts. Curled, tattered, deformed, or torn wings, missing or twisted limbs and bodies. Mild to severe due to dehydration, overcrowding, malnutrition, increased humidity, increased diet variety, yada, yada, yada. And finally, the last one, which has been a problem with establishing at least 2 species and strains of cockroaches from the wild, is yeast ooze. We don't know what sort of yeast is responsible for this, but Dr. Appel from Auburn was telling me that he's had an issue with this or reported it at least in things. Dead individuals slumped over in corners, cracks, etc. The body drips apart when picked up, has a particularly foul odor. It's very severe due to an internal yeast infection, typically fatal and contagious, uncommon in long-term captive colonies, but occurs occasionally in a wild-caught stock. May be treatable with increased ventilation, diet change, or temperature increase. So I haven't really found a good way to fix this yet. They don't smell like alcohol from what I remember. It's more of it's like a very poo-y smell. It's very strong and very pungent. It's different from the smell that you'll find in a cockroach that has died of other reasons and where it's got a very, very strong rotting smell. This is more of just an absolutely disgusting smell. Very much so encourage you to naturally avoid it, or at least your senses do. So for pictures for this section, again, I would like to add smudge on the screen. I would like to add a picture of the jigsaw disorder, but I've added pictures of Serratia infected cockroaches so people can see what they look like. And a picture of a hissing cockroach with the commensal mites pointed out on it. Was a pretty, I figured that would be pretty nice. I don't have the best camera, I have an iPhone, whatever, but you can see the mites pretty clearly, and I put little arrows towards them too in the picture. Chain says, I had 3 giganteus upside down, twitching and exuding an alcohol-smelling fluid. I thought it might have been a yeast. Could be. Right now, my giganteus, my regular line of giganteus, not the Trinidad ones, have been having some classic die-offs, and I'm not sure why. They were performing phenomenally all summer. I wonder if maybe just the dry air has gotten to the adults, almost all adults or sub-adults that I'm finding that have died. I'm not worried about the colony long term, though. I know they'll be fine. But yeah, I haven't had this happen in a couple of months. Could be overcrowding. Could be a lot of things. Maybe not overcrowding. Maybe it's temperature. I'm wondering maybe I should even keep them cooler. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. But the Trinidad ones are doing fine, and I do have those with a little extra humidity. I have a little polycarbonate thing. Speaking of which, one of the reasons why I'm so stressed today, which I guess I will go ahead and talk about, is with this winter storm stuff happening and all the things that I've purchased supply-wise to sort of get me through the winter. Everything's just arriving this week. And so I've had a gigantic, colossal box of special pine cones pop up. Like gigantic, like it's like 3 feet by 4 feet by like 4 feet, just full of specialty pine cones. I've had the polycarbonate lids came in. I ordered another batch because there are still some containers that I needed to use them on. So I had more polycarbonate lids come in that need to be put into things and stored and whatever. More critter keepers came in. It's always a hassle because of all the packaging that they use for those things. Had to go get more wood pellets for beetles and millipedes and stuff. Had to go get more tanks for stuff. Some things like my Salgania needed to be moved into actual final enclosures. Where would one get these pine cones, says Ellie Last? Just on eBay. I've been talking with an eBay seller who's able to find some useful sizes and shapes of pine cones. What else showed up? There had to be an icing on the cake. So back in the middle of November, and I think I talked about this before, but I've been ordering tropical tetra fish flakes because they also work really well for a lot of stuff. For smaller colonies of isopods, I use them over dog food until they're large enough to get the dog food treatment. So I've been buying 4 or 5 pound tubs of tetra fish flakes, and I think I bought Amazon or wherever out of their back stock of stuff, because even though I placed an order for a bunch in November, they weren't able to ship it until this week. So I think they were just going through whatever they had built up, and now like, oh, some crazy fish person's buying all these fish flakes. We got to like start stocking it again. So I have this big box of fish flakes with like 5 tubs of fish flakes just showed up today too, and it's just like I have to find places for everything. And I just now finished reorganizing stuff in the basement. I have to put the final topper on like the new millipede rack to make more space. But like I just finished like putting there's now a whole wall of isopods. And so I had to move everything that was originally there to the other side of the basement, move all this stuff around, set up all this new stuff. It's just a lot of work solo in addition to keeping all the other gears running. Fortunately, emails and stuff have slowed down right now. So, yeah, it's a lot. Speaking of rainbow stags, I have some to put away. I'm going to make some available on the website if I ever get around to updating it. But kimchi making, I have rainbow stags I could use it. I've been using bulk white rot fungus inoculant. And I get whatever the companies have extra of for sale. I just get it in bulk, and I mix it about 50-50 with hardwood pellets, and I get a nice white rot colonization going on in the containers that I've been using it for. And so, yeah, that is what my white rot fungus is, available on the site if you would like to pick up a starter thing of it. It is available on the site as the white rot wood thing. The Beetle guy asks, have you ever kept any gastropods? Yes, I have a small colony of what are those called? The parthenogenetic little greenhouse pest snail from Florida, Subulina octona. So I have a little colony of Subulina octona just for funsies. I have a colony of Ladula floridana from Ocala National Forest area, the Florida pancake slugs. I recently received two Belocollis angustipes leatherleafs, and also hopefully breeding Neohelix albolabris snails, which is a very wide-ranging North American native, very large snail. Hopefully get those reproducing. They seem to be detritivores, which is nice compared to other snails, which seem to prefer to have a lot of green leafy material. Or I do have a couple of aquatic. Excuse me. I have a couple of aquatic snails too, but that's not very important. Let me think. Anything else? I did say we were going to have a nice casual and pretty long live stream this week, but I would like to get back to stuff, especially with Christmas coming up. And again, I should write this. I got to write this last section of the guide so I can get it out to all you lovely donators. Satchel says that aquatic snails are important. I suppose they are. I have tiny flat ones that came in on some duckweed. I can't remember what the name of that family is, but they're really tiny. They're very flattened. They're not the freshwater limpet snails. Harpalis. Yeah, I think I found Harpalis. I've never bred them though. Holiday orders, a lot of those people, fortunately, since I've been hyping it up on the website that, hey, I'm not going to be selling stuff. Hey, I'm not going to be doing this for the last couple of weeks. People got a lot of their orders in before the holidays, fortunately. And so right now there's not as many emails, just thankfully, because I can relax a little bit and focus on the guide without feeling guilty. But things will pick right back up right around after New Year's, which is nice. I'm going to order right now. I mean, again, with this winter weather stuff, I think I'm not going to ship next week because that's kind of dumb with the weather. Temperature is going to be so low and all that stuff. So I'll probably bump orders to shipping on January 3rd, and there'll just be a bunch of stuff that needs to go out, and that's just the way it's going to have to be. Speaking of next week, though, I had opened my big mouth and had said that I would be recording the bug room tour next week. And with the amount of stuff that I have to do, unless when I clean the basement, the bug room on the 27th and 28th, unless that goes phenomenally well, I don't think I'm going to be able to meet the deadline for doing filming then and getting things nice and edited before the new year, unfortunately. But I have to make sure things need to be fed, things need to be set up, things need to be watered, and I have to prioritize in those things, and orders need to go out too. With everything going on the January 3rd or whatever, I have to prioritize things and make sure that the living things continue to live, because if the living things die, then I don't have things to sell or to have forever. And so that's just the decision I'm probably going to end up making, probably on Christmas Day, or maybe I'll put it up on the website before then. But yeah, maybe get a notification on Monday the 26th. But in exchange, I have yet to do a Christmas giveaway yet, and I didn't label this live stream Christmas giveaway live stream. So the next week's live stream will be a giveaway stream. I'll give something away next week, Thursday. At least as a consolation prize for me not doing the filming and tour then. New Year's resolution. Oh, man. I don't really necessarily do New Year's resolutions. I can't even remember if I said I was going to do one last year, but especially if it's just me, I think I'm going to try and keep on top of getting new things more. So I've gotten so many things in the last year, and I'm kind of tired of hustling to set everything up when I get it. So I might, as a resolution, take a couple weeks off of getting anything new. And I guess during that time, I can use it to update the website availability or something like that. But it's like every week it seems like there's another box or something here or another section of something I need, just not just getting new things that way, but like splitting cultures and like, oh, this would make a cool morph, or oh, this would make a cool project or something like that. It gets kind of tiring. So I think that I would like to take some time off of that again, which will enable me to come at it with more energy after the time off. Tennyson says we need to get Cinderblata, Sex Punctata, and Eucharidia Maxwelli in U.S. culture. Yeah, that would be nice. Just obviously getting more roaches is nice. I can't say too much at the moment, but there's a possibility that a extremely amazing cockroach will be in culture in the near future, and I can't say any more than that. And I may not be able to say any more than that for a long time. I have to ask some questions and check with some people, but there is some, as of today, there's some big crazy cockroach news that I cannot say more about, and I know that's going to be gut wrenching to anybody who's hearing it, but I need to stay quiet at the moment until some extra details are disclosed. And yeah, it's not going to revolutionize the cockroach hobby, but it's something that's really amazing and really cool, and that people have been coveting for a very long time. We win. There are always some amazing cockroaches in culture. We win, yes, Chris Snyder. But this one in particular, and if the full backstory behind it is ever allowed to be disclosed, it is really, really, really something, and it's actually crazy. It's just straight up crazy. And so we'll see what happens there, and I'm really excited. The odds are kind of not in favor of it being established, but somebody could start a colony, could start the entire captive colonies of Elliptorhina davidii from an adult female. I feel like we can do a lot of things. So, all right, we will wrap this week's live stream up there. I'll see everybody next week. A reminder that next week will be a giveaway live stream. There will be a giveaway. I don't know what, but it will be given away. And so with this being the last live stream before Christmas, I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas, regardless of whether or not you practice it in the traditional sense. I hope you have a lovely weekend with friends and family, and avoid the winter snowstorm vortex that is apparently happening right now. I have the shade down to keep some of the heat locked in this room, so I have no idea what it looks like outside, but it may be a disaster. So take care, and may your cultures ever be holly jolly and bountiful. Good night, everybody.